Quality ingredients make any recipe turn out better. Local cooks who insist on fresh meats, produce, and dairy products have trusted Bing's supermarkets for over 50 years. 2 stores, everyday low prices, and friendly service. Bing's East and State Fair Shopping Center.
Yeah, I'm Jack Bloess, and today we're going to show you how to make a Jack Bloess apple pie. And you say, what's so significant about that? And the fact is that everybody thinks this is the best apple pie they have ever eaten. And so I'm going to show you what I put into it and how I do it. And I try to do it as cheap as I can and as fast as I can, and as easy and as clean. Don't have much cleanup. I go to the store and I buy a package of deep dish 9-inch pie shells. And there's 2 pie shells in here, and there's 2 pie pans. And that makes 2 pies because I use a crumb crust. So I get 2 pies out of this package. And I buy 3 pounds of apples. Most stores have 3 pounds in a bag, and they're usually not as expensive. I either buy Jonathan's. These are Granny Smith's. But about any apple works. These are the Jonathan's and Granny Smith's are the tartest. And they make the best pies, but doesn't make that much difference. About any apples work good. Then you have to have a stick of butter to make the crumb crust, half a stick for each pie, and you have to have flour and sugar and a little cinnamon. And I think these 2 pie shells cost $2.20, and this 3 pounds of apples cost $3.19. I go to Bing's, but you can get them at any store. But I like Bing's because they're local people. We're going to show you how to peel the apples. I've got an apple peeler that my daughter brought me, and I didn't like it at first, but now I love it. Now what I do, I count the apples. There's usually 10, sometimes 11 apples. So if you got 10 apples, you need 5 for each pie shell. So here there's 5. There's 11 here. So I got to have 5.5 for each pie. Here's the way the peeler works. You stick that right on those prongs and turn the crank. And it peels the apple and it cores it all at one time. There's the apple. There's one. I'm going to put them over here, and I'm going to count 5 of them. And you cut them up, and you spread the apples out. Don't want too many peelings in your pie. And there is 1 pie. We need 1/2 cup of sugar. More or less. It doesn't have to be perfect, but half's about right. See there? 1/2 cup of sugar and a teaspoon of cinnamon for each pie. And I put kind of a heaping teaspoon of sugar in the cinnamon and stir it up. And then you put it on the pie, and you want it to seep slide down inside the pie so it gets down in there with the juices when it cooks. And that's all the cinnamon you use. And so you want it to go on down in there. That's good enough. And then we're going to make the crumb crust. And we're going to get the butter out of the refrigerator. You want to leave the butter in the refrigerator till you're ready for it, because you want it hard, because you're going to chop it up. If you take it out too soon, then it gets soft and it doesn't chop up as easy. And it takes a stick of butter to do 2 pies. So we're going to get a half a stick, more or less. Put the other one back in the refrigerator. It's a pretty simple recipe. Okay, you put the butter in the bowl. Then you got to have a half a cup of sugar. Same way. Half a cup of sugar. And 3/4 of a cup of flour. And there again, it's not that critical. If you get a little too much or not enough, quite, it doesn't make that much difference. It does the job. That ought to do it. Okay, then you have to have one of these blending tools, which most women have, especially if they make their own pie crust, they use it. And then you've got to chop that butter up and mix it in with the sugar and the flour. It's kind of hard to start out with, but it gets, as you get it chopped up, it gets a little easier, and pretty soon now we got it going. And chop it till you just got little pieces of butter, and the sugar and the flour, they mix together pretty good. But you need the butter to be hard and it chops up better. Okay, then when you put it on the pie, you just dump the whole pile right in the middle of the pie. And then you take your fingers and you even it up, work it down all the way around, and you get a good cover on it that way. That's the way you do that. Then you put it in the oven for about an hour. Usually I go about 50 minutes and I go look at it. And you've got to see it bubbling around the edge. That's the way you can tell if it's done. If it's not bubbling, that juice, cinnamon and apple juice, if it's not bubbling in 50 minutes, you leave it in there. And if you have to leave it an hour and 5 minutes, and I got the oven set at 375, and but that's the pie right there. And then, of course, then you do the other pie the same way, and you've got 2 pies, and it doesn't take too long. The only mess you have is this, and this, and this. And if you have a garbage disposal like I do, I just grind up the pieces in the garbage disposal. But you can take those pieces and put them out in the yard, and the birds will get them, and the possums and the coons. We'll put this one in the oven. See how that's bubbling there? That's the juice. The juice and the cinnamon. If they're bubbling, they're done. If they're not bubbling, you leave them in until they're bubble. Simple as that. It's about an hour's time. There's what the finished ones look like. And you can see right here where it was boiling, bubbling. That one didn't bubble much, but they were in at the same time, so they're done. And that's a Jack Bloess apple pie. And it didn't take too long.